Hey there, this is TY coming at you. This is my first video of actual content. I wanted to put something together on the first day here, trying to get things going. And it's actually something that I really care about, and it's something that I enjoy, and that's college football. So I live here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a huge Alabama fan. But being in Louisville, Kentucky, Louisville being in the ACC, we're right across the river from Indiana, so you have the Big Ten and Ohio State people and stuff like that, and then you also have the SEC with Kentucky. So you kind of being where I'm at, I hear a lot of different people's opinions. Let's say so. I'm not exactly. I'm not in the heart of the SEC country, so I hear stuff that other people don't hear. Here's the thing. You're stupid if you think the SEC is not the best conference out there. Point blank. You cannot say it any easier and simpler than that. And here's why. You hear a lot of Ohio State people or non-SEC people, let's not even put it on Ohio State, non-SEC people talk about how the rankings are skewed towards the SEC and that they get the benefit of the doubt and no one else does. And how I think it was Stoops a couple years ago talked about how the Big 12 was the stronger conference. The SEC is the strongest conference, and it has been for the last decade. And it won't be forever. I will say that. I'm not one of these people that think that things don't change. It's going to change. It's not going to be this year, but it is going to not be the best conference someday. And here's why it's the best conference. It's not because Oklahoma can't play in the SEC. Oregon couldn't play in the SEC. UCLA couldn't play in the SEC. Ohio State couldn't play. Do I think that they would beat Alabama? Not until something changes. When you're getting the number one recruiting class every year, it's kind of hard to not have the best team. So it will eventually happen. They might not win another championship in my lifetime. But I think they're going to be in contention as long as Nick Saban's down there. And that's really all you can ask for, is to have a chance. So I want to put this to rest right now and make it very simple as to why the SEC is the best conference out there. If you just look at bowl results, I don't think that's necessarily a fair look at what you're doing, because of it depends on who you're playing. So like the Capital One Bowl is like the number, and don't get on here and say you're wrong about the numbers, but I'm just giving you an example of it. It's like, let's say, the Big Ten's third best team versus the SEC's sixth best team. And that's whoever those two teams are, that's how they get that Capital One Bowl matchup. Excuse me. So you can't, it's not apples to apples. It's not saying that this is the fourth best team in the Big 12 and they're going to play the fourth best team in the Pac 12 and we'll see who's better. It's just not how they're made together. It's not how they're made. But even if you go by that standard, which I've already sat there and said is skewed because it doesn't show the right thing, I actually did a little work before I started this video. I don't know if you can see right here. I have last year's bowl results. So if you look at it, and I'm trying to do this without making the camera jump 100 times. The SEC was 9-2. The Pac-12 was 6-4. The Big Ten was 5-5. The Pac-12 was 3-4, and the ACC was 4-6. And this is actually how they finished in their conference alignment. So, Clemson obviously won the ACC, Oklahoma won the Big 12, Michigan State, Stanford, and Bama. Okay? So, but this is why my feeling that they're the best conference. I don't know. Could Clemson play in the SEC and be successful? Yes. Would they maybe go undefeated? I don't think so. I don't think Alabama can go undefeated. They didn't last year. They didn't go undefeated. Ole Miss beat them. So, and Alabama beat Clemson last year. So I understand it's not You can't go, well, this team be that team, so that team would be that team. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, though, it is a harder way to go in the SEC than it is anywhere else. So I don't think they would go undefeated. I think they could play. I think they might stumble once, maybe twice. So you're still talking about a great team. I think, though, how you compare teams and make it to where you can see is which is the best conference. What I think the best way to do this is if you look at this board and where they finished. Let me pull out here so you can see what I'm saying. It's not can that team play there, can that team play there. It's this is all the number ones. Who's the best at the number one spot? Who is the best at the number two spot? Who is the best at the number three spot if we went through? And it is relative. It's all people are going to have their own opinions on it. So it's not like it is a foolproof way. If you just take like the third line, that's Florida State, TCU, Ohio State, USC, and Ole Miss. I would say Ohio State, personally. It's probably the best number 3 team from last year's standings. Does that mean, though, that the SEC is overrated? No, because I guarantee you I would take Ole Miss over USC or TCU, and Florida State really didn't have – they were awful last year. So even when they get beat, they're still the second best team. And if you go down and you break it through all the things, and yeah, obviously Oklahoma's going to beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt and South Carolina. They're supposed to. They're good. But if you take Kentucky's beating Kansas State without even trying. Kentucky's beaten BYU, Virginia Tech. Kentucky, that's who they can play with. They're at that tier in the conference. So, yes, top to bottom, I believe the SEC is easily the best conference in the country. This is like a 8-minute video talking about it. So, I guess, I don't see the argument at all on the other side of how saying, well, they're overrated and they just get the benefit of the doubt. The SEC West has 8 people in that division. I'm sorry, they have 7 people in that division. 6 of them went to bowl games. That's who they're playing week in and week out. And that competition breeds being better. So, Ohio State, you know why they could never beat the SEC in a championship game back here a couple years ago? It wasn't they didn't have good teams. They did. It was that they had 2 games a year they actually had to play and get up for. And the rest of the year, they were playing Illinois and Indiana, and whoop-de-doo, they could go out there just on sheer talent and beat them. In the SEC, if you are LSU, you got to play Alabama. You got to play Auburn. You got to play Florida. Then you got another person from the SEC East that you would maybe have to play. That could be Georgia or South Carolina's been good the last couple of years. They've fallen off here recently. There's competition week in and week out. You don't have the Indianas and the Northwesterns and the TCU or the Texas Tech teams. You don't have those teams at the bottom, because even Kentucky, as bad as they are better than those teams. So that is why, in my opinion, that is just silly and stupid to say right now, in the way the state of college football, that the SEC is not the best conference. I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button if you did. Please subscribe. I'm going to start having videos out every week. We'll see where this thing goes. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.